They're lowering the grade boundaries in things like the Royal Academy and the Royal College and other kind of institutes of education, because children aren't playing instruments as much as they used to do. So it's just a massive push this year, it should be, for all music teachers, because it's so easy to do, to push for them to be learning how to play an instrument within a lesson, encouraging them. The parents do need to be involved, they play such a big part as well.
Welcome to the show, Passion for Learning, Inspiring Teachers. Today we have two remarkably inspiring and charismatic teachers, Sophia Smith and Rachel O'Hara. We talk about growth mindset and friendships that transcend performance. These young ladies want to get music in the curriculum to ensure that every child learns music and learns a musical instrument by the time that they leave primary school. Why? Because music transcends performance across the curriculum. Today we talk about how we make that happen and why it's so important for the next generation. Welcome to the show, Sophia Smith and Rachel O'Hara. So we just come out of voice training, which was...
Yeah, I know, that was going to be pronounced. Yeah, okay.
Which makes sense, right? Because you guys are music teachers. So how do you guys use voice in order to really create a narrative and to really project your voice to the children?
Just expression, isn't it? Whatever you're talking about, if you're talking about it with a lot of emotion, just trying to be really expressive, and that will make them sort of hang on your every word if you're really, being quite expressive with the way you speak.
I suppose it comes in with being engaging with the children as well, isn't it? Making sure that every time you're speaking, you've got their full attention.
Yeah.
You're being sort of not theatrical, but you're definitely putting some kind of effort in when you're speaking to the children.
That's really important, because where I see teaching is it is a performance. It is how you are performing to the children in order to make sure that they are engaged and they do take on that knowledge that you're sharing. So that's really, really powerful. Where did music start for both of you? Because you guys are incredibly inspirational and incredibly talented. So where did that journey start for you both?
Do you want to go first?
So I used to love singing when I was younger. I was loved all the Disney movies and things like that. So I loved doing that. Probably though, would have been university was when I really sort of started wanting to be a teacher, because my voice coach, I really loved, she had so much energy. She was a bit of a crazy lady, but she was so fun, because she just really loved what she did, and that kind of, that was probably what inspired me. And I think I've said that before, but that was definitely what made me want to do teaching, going from performing to teaching.
Was there something that she said to you, or was there a particular moment that flipped the trigger for you to go, I actually want to do teaching?
I think it was gradual, but it was just the way that she always entered the lesson. She always was so bubbly, she always had so much energy, and it made me feel so at ease and really want to do what I was doing. Do you know what I mean? So that was, I think, quite infectious, that way that she was.
Fantastic.
When she came in.
Fantastic. And yourself, Sophia?
Well, I didn't really know where to start.
Well, I saw your image on Instagram the other day with, I don't know how old you are, but it looked like you were about 5 or 6 playing really articulately on the piano. I was like, I wish I could do that, right?
Basically, everything I have to thank for is probably my dad, because my dad, throughout my whole life and career, has always not pushed me to do music, but he's been at every event I ever did. You can see from those videos, it's my dad behind the camera, videoing everything. I had piano lessons from 4 years old, and I was obviously lucky to have those lessons. Lots of children, their parents can't afford those, so I was very lucky and I was grateful. And then at 9 years old, I asked my dad if I could play the trumpet, which is what my granddad played, and the cornet, because we actually come from the whole line of Salvation Army.
Wow.
So it's actually a lot of brass bands going on. My grandma, she played the organ in the church, and then when she didn't do it, my granddad did it. Yeah. So they took it in turns, and then obviously it's passed down throughout the family, and my dad plays the flugelhorn, and he was playing it in the house. I said, Dad, I want to play trumpet. At first he was like, absolutely not, you're sticking to piano, you haven't even mastered that yet, you're not going to start another one. But I picked his trumpet up and I played literally C to C, I did a scale, and he was like, okay, you can have another instrument.
Great.
But progressing through school, it wasn't always I was going to be a musician, it was I loved it. Music was literally, I would wake up, I would go and play my instruments. At school, I would just be sitting in English, just waiting for the moment for them to say, music gifted and talented children can come, and then we would just run off. But it was probably in secondary school actually, where I was struggling quite a lot with English and with science and maths and anything academic. I was in handwriting club pretty much all the way through primary school and secondary school. But I was in the band, I was in top set for music, I was being gifted and talented, we were taken on trips. We were so valued for having that subject, and being good at that subject really just, honestly, if I didn't have it, I wouldn't know what I would be doing. So lucky.
Did your passion for music affect in any way how you dealt with the other subjects like English, where you said that you were struggling?
So my teachers would actually not use it against me, but they would say, if you want to do music gifted and talent today, you have to behave well, you have to put the effort in, and I want a piece of work completed, because that's what I struggle with the most, finishing my work by the end of the lesson, and then you can go to music gifted and talented. So it was actually a way of roping me in to get me on their side in that subject as well.
Great. And what about you, Rachel? Did you find that music was kind of like a gateway for you to be able to access learning in different ways across different subjects in the curriculum?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is a little bit unrelated, but thinking about what you were saying about in primary school, I've just remembered a moment when I was like a really quite quiet child. And the thing that I always got the comment was, Rachel needs to participate more in class. So
really?
I know. That was always my thing, right? But it changed when I was in year 4. That was when I started getting into singing. And then my music teacher told me to go into the talent quest. And I was really, really nervous.
Wait, you had a music teacher in year 4?
Yeah, well, because primary school I did have a music teacher, yeah.
Wow,
so,
you were lucky.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I was lucky actually. But yeah, so I was told to go into the talent quest, and I went and did it, and I was so nervous. And everyone, like the teachers and the students, they were so shocked at what I'd, done and hearing my voice and everything. And I didn't really know that I could sing or anything like that. But after that, it was like everything sort of changed for me. Like people were actually noticing me a little bit, and also it gave me more confidence as well. So I think in that probably participating in class and things like that, I started to get a bit more confidence that I could speak up a bit more.
Yeah.
So I think that definitely helped.
Yeah, absolutely. And then what was the moment for you, Sophia, what was your journey? Did you go to university and then get into teaching, or how did that work out for you?
So whilst I was at university, I actually spent the first 2 years being a professional musician, touring as a trumpet player. I actually almost missed one of my assignments because I was on tour with a band for 6 weeks in Malaysia. But the goal at that point in my frame of mind was I wanted to be a performer. But when it actually came down to it, I'd done the performing, I'd done the gigging, it wasn't consistent work. You'd have like a gig here and there, and it would be very stressful. So I started to look into private teaching of the trumpet and the piano with private students, and I did that for a while, and I really started to like the teaching. And then it became an option of doing classroom teaching and doing whole class keyboard lessons in and around London with Trinity. I started doing that and just decided that actually being a classroom teacher wasn't that far within my reach, and I could do it.
Great.
And then obviously I got the opportunity with Danesy, and then ever since then, honestly, I think I have the best career going.
Wow.
I feel lucky.
Wow. What is it that makes it such an exciting career for you? Like, what is it that gets you out of bed every morning, that really drives you?
My idea is, as I said, I was lucky to have lessons when I was a kid. And lots of children in London, having lived here for a while now, being at university in London, you can see that lots of children don't have that.
Yeah.
They don't have the money for private lessons. So they don't have the opportunity to learn an instrument and go into any bands or orchestras, because there's a whole social side of it as well.
Yeah.
When they get older, we've got lots of problems with mental health. We need people all the youth clubs have been cut. We don't have those anymore. So we need kids to go into brass bands and into orchestras. And those children that are in maybe not the nicest of areas, they don't have a good income, they don't get to do that.
Yeah.
And then people are wondering why, we have so many problems with teenagers.
Yeah.
And that's why.
So how does, for somebody that's not involved in it, how does doing something like music and engaging in that performance aspect affect mental health?
So it's been proven that it improves your confidence as a youngster. It gives you a time. There's SATs going on at the moment. It's very apparent. All of our schools are tense, to say the least. But there is something that really bugs me that they do at this time. But we're more than willing to be helpful to the teachers that obviously are worrying about SATs, but they've taken music and PE away from them until SATs.
Really?
But I think that is the worst thing for their mental health that you can do.
Definitely,
at this time. Mine, I can see it in them, in their faces. They're really struggling.
Yeah. I spoke to Jeremy Hannay, the interview that we just put out, about that same thing, and he said the worst thing that you can do at the time of SAT is to pull away the creative arts.
Yeah, definitely.
Because the impact that it has on the mindset of the young learners and the freedom to learn and the freedom to express themselves, to think creatively. When you're in an exam, you have to think creatively. You have to really apply yourself. And I
was just going to say, there's, talking about music, they probably don't, they won't often get this time to think about. So I was doing a song analysis recently and just asking them, what do you think the mood is in this song? How does this make you feel? They probably don't have a lot of opportunity in other subjects to, have that question put to them, like, how does this make you feel? Yeah. How did you emotionally respond to this? And getting to discuss their emotions. And that's probably drawn from previous experiences. And it's just a good sort of dialogue to, you know what I mean? Like talking about music and their emotions. So, yeah.
So we did an exercise the other day where I put a song on and I wanted year 6 to listen to the song and to just sit there and think about it, what makes them feel, and they really struggled with it. They couldn't sit there for that long. They didn't have the concentration to just sit down and listen to the music. They never do it. So they never actually get the opportunity to just sit there listening to something and just think. So I think music is such a good way for them to just to reflect. And we're at the school that I'm at, we're a growth mindset school. Yeah. And at this moment in time, they've taken away the music lessons, the PE lessons because of the SATs. But I just think their growth mindset should be put into place, and they should be thinking about the fact that the music lessons are actually going to help them relax. So when they go back into the next lesson after music, they're going to be there and they're going to have their mindset straight away. We want to learn. We just had some fun. They learn through fun. And then they go into the next lesson and that's it. And they're already ready.
Yeah, especially at the tender age of like 10, 11, right? You don't want to have the mental stress of an exam because really it's about how you can apply what you've learned in the exam to the next stage in life, not necessarily what it is that you put on the paper in that moment. Whilst that has a narrative to play, it's like if you can involve what you've learned elsewhere and be able to apply it, that's what learning is all about, right? It's not learning to pass an exam, but it's learning to be able to apply and to be effective in the world. Yeah, that's really, really insightful. So what about you, Rachel? So tell me about your lessons and what you're doing now in order to really develop that growth mindset with children and to develop mental awareness further as well.
Growth mindset. So, sorry, say it again.
What are you doing specifically in your lessons right now to really develop the growth mindset for young learners?
I'm trying to think now. Not sure.
Is this a growth mindset school?
I don't think so. Like I know yours is it's almost like a.
We have staff training now. I'm big based on our growth mindset.
I mean, are you thinking maybe musically, like just developing them musically? I'm trying to start them off. So basically, I'm trying to work out the gaps in their knowledge because obviously previous to my teaching there, they've had some different teachers throughout the years. So trying to work out the gaps in their knowledge, and also I think because I've done a bit of secondary as well, trying to think about where they need to be. So especially, and I'm trying to, especially in year 6, I'm trying to make them realize, trying to make them think as well what they want to do with their learning. So talking about always relating it back to what we're doing. So if I'm saying, you might like to learn learn the guitar when you go to secondary school, because they have more of an opportunity to do private lessons in most secondary schools, so learning an instrument that way. So if we're doing something on the ukulele, I'm saying, like, if you want to do a string instrument, this is an opportunity to do that. I know with the year 6s the other day, they hadn't done it at all. They didn't know any chords on the ukulele, whereas the year 4s did. So I'm just trying to work out where the gaps are and trying to fill that before they go to secondary school so that they are able to sort of just jump straight in, and also just giving them the sort of thinking about what they want to do progressing into secondary school. That's what I'm trying to work on at the minute, and just trying to just fill all the gaps in the learning to get them all on the same level so that they're ready for secondary. So
with secondary and primary, you having the experience of both, what are the tangible differences and why is it that you're teaching in primary instead of secondary?
This is interesting because I like talking about gaps in learning. When you go to secondary school, you can really see, because obviously children come from different backgrounds, and you know, some primary schools don't have a music teacher, for example. So it's trying to get them prepared for that. And I think early on is a really important time, especially with, you know, building like the foundational skills like pitch, and, you know, like that sense of rhythm as well. Like I remember starting, it was year 7 now, it's year 6 now, but in year 7 was their first year of secondary school when I started out. And the way that they would count in would be like 3, 2, 1, go. And that was where I was like, okay, so they don't have that pulse, which is something that you should be learning when you know, the very foundation, like year 1, you know, you should be learning the 1, 2, 3, 4. So trying to get that ingrained into them, and also doing lots of singing. So that, I mean, I'm very, obviously being a singer, I'm very like oral skills based, you know, and I am trying to sort of integrate the both. So for example, if we're doing some reading, I'm trying to sing as well as get them to look at where it is on the stage. So singing, or getting them to look at the rhythm, clap it, then, you know, where is this? Okay, this is a C, this is an E, and then we'll sing it. So like, da 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 da, C C D D E. So trying to integrate the both, so that they are able to just be like a well-rounded musician. So, because that's where the gaps can be. So yeah.
And you spoke, Sophia, about ensuring every child is able to play an instrument. How do you go about integrating that into the curriculum?
So in every single lesson I do with my kids in my school, we have kind of like an agreement that for half of the lesson we do sort of more their work, their learning, and then we go from them doing their compositions or whatever it is we're doing that term. In the next half of the lesson we turn into a class orchestra, and every child gets to play an instrument and they get to be involved. I want every child to at least be able to play in time to the beat in that lesson. Every child does by the end of the lesson, which is really, really good to see. Because that's something that we sometimes find quite hard. If a child hasn't learned by probably about year 4 to play in time to the beat, it is a struggle.
Yeah, so it's trying to get in there early, exactly.
And also music reading is such an integral part of people's learning in music, and it's something which has been dropped a lot from the curriculum.
Right.
And I think it's started to be put back in now, but music reading is so helpful. If you can learn to read music, even just C, D, E, F and G on a stave, when you learn an instrument or you have an instrument in front of you, you're heaps ahead of the other people. Got it. You'll already have one step ahead, and it's so easy to teach, and it's so easy to pick up. It's just that for some reason it's kind of gone. People don't learn to do that in the curriculum anymore.
See, I believe that's why it's so important for schools to have teachers like yourselves in the school curriculum, because you know it, you live it, you breathe it, as opposed to one of the things that I talk about a lot is like the big problem in education is that the schools don't often have the operational capacity, and as skilled and as talented and as hardworking as teachers are, unless they have a specific training or a specific background within music, for example, it's really difficult to be able to teach it to a high level, even if it looks on the surface, like from a head teacher or from Ofsted or from somebody from a teaching background, even if it looks like a really seamless lesson, there's technical bits that they could be getting really fundamentally wrong or missing,
Definitely,
which then has a huge negative impact.
There's a shortage of children coming through playing instruments now to go into things like the LSO, like the orchestras we have in the country. They're lowering the grade boundaries in things like the Royal Academy and the Royal College and other kind of institutes of education, because children aren't playing instruments as much as they used to be. So it's just a massive push this year, it should be, for all music teachers, because it's so easy to do, to push for them to be learning how to play an instrument within a lesson, encouraging them. The parents do need to be involved, they play such a big part as well, and they don't have to fork out lots of money. In the lessons we learn how to play instruments. Usually schools have peripatetic teachers set up. There are, at my school we subsidise the peri-teaching lessons for the children, and the parents love it, and they have every single week they have a music lesson, then we have a concert at the end of term, and it's just really good for children to have the opportunity, no matter what income. There's always funding in place. People just don't know. No one really talks about it. But there is funding, you can get it. There's lots of organisations. If you can't pay for an instrument, your child wants to learn, they'll pay. And they will fund half of it for you.
Fantastic.
I think as well, as important as it is the numeracy and literacy, if there's a child who's really gifted but they haven't got that opportunity to demonstrate those skills, they might not feel, that's where they get their sense of worth. If they're able to perform something, if they're really skilled on an instrument,
that's their thing, and if everyone can watch them, that gives them a sense of pride, you know, and where they might not be able to apply themselves in other subjects.
Yeah.
So I think it's definitely important. Yeah.
For sure.
I felt so proud at school when every time I would do a performance, but it would be the only subject that I actually felt like this I am good at. So I didn't feel negative about English and maths because I knew I had music.
Yeah.
I wouldn't worry. So
Yeah.
I took the heat off of it, worrying that, I don't know what I'm going to do when I'm older.
Yeah.
It's fine because I've got music, I love doing it, I enjoy it. And lots of children feel that way about PE as well, don't they?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely like cross-integration. And one of the things that I really love about music is the cross-curricular links. The links, it's so easy and so like transparent to link it to geography, history, English, literature, drama, and all these other subjects, and maths as well. The level of maths that you can teach through music is just like remarkable.
We actually do that as a project.
Yeah.
We do music maths, and they're actually putting it on in the Royal Albert Hall. They're doing a teaching session. We put our names in to go to.
Oh wow!
It's all about music maths, and in the holiday camp that we did at Newton Farm, we did one whole day was music maths, and we did challenges and spy missions, and we would have things, just literally really simple things, which I was going to speak to you about actually, where we had like, you'd have like a minim times a quartet, or you'll have add 8 quavers and times it by a dotted minim.
Yeah.
And the kids, they are like this, they are
Love it.
scribbling.
And they enjoy it, and all of a sudden they start to enjoy maths, whereas before maths could have been seen as a bore to them. Yeah, which is incredible. A couple more questions before we end the show that I really want to dive deep into, which is, how did you two develop a relationship? Like, how did you two become friends? Because I just saw all of these pictures of you guys together. Obviously, I know you and I know you.
Yeah.
And I met you like a year or 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Sort of did your induction and stuff like that. And then I just saw pictures of you two on Instagram on like flying abroad and doing all sorts of crazy stuff.
It was that CPD day, the first one. Yeah. Yeah.
We're just on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
We honestly, we're like sisters.
Yeah.
We probably teach very similar, to be fair. We have similar interests. We're very kind of. How would you explain this?
Just that I don't know, that CPD day, and then it was good because, you know, I was like starting, that was my first, I didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
That was the first CPD day because I was starting in September.
Yeah.
And then, I just remember like sort of sitting there, and then you were sort of like, I can't remember, you were over there, and I think I moved because I couldn't see, and then I thought, I hope she doesn't think I'm rude. Right? And I said it to you later, and you were like, yeah, I did. I was like, no. But then so we all sort of just started chatting when we got into our music group, and then after that, we like went for drinks afterwards, didn't we? All of
Was
us.
it the cup song we were practicing together?
Can't remember.
I think it was something like the cup song that Tracy was doing with us.
Maybe.
We were laughing, kind of having a joke.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
it. Let me tell you, every time I see you guys together, it fills me with joy that you guys are so close and that you found JNC as a hub to bring your connection together.
Yeah.
That's something that is really, really important to me and to the organisation as a whole.
I think it's something that's done really well because I used to be teaching with an agency called Tradewinds, and they had socials, but it wasn't the same. Like there's something I think, just mainly these CPD days as well when we get to break into our subject
when
group.
we go into the music bit, that is like our happy place.
Yeah.
We're like, we love to learn from other music teachers. Because a lot of the time when you're in a school, we're the only music ones.
Yeah, we're always the
Yeah.
ones delivering, so now we get to be the ones who are like, learning something new, and everybody loves it. Yeah.
And that's probably why we get on so well, because we're like, we did this today
Yeah.
at school or something.
Why?
We were singing. We were saying it before we came in. There was something
down
that
the road. What were we singing?
I sing, then you sing, can we sing together? That was something on that CPD.
Yeah,
that one.
It was.
And so that was something that we all had to sing, and we had different parts and rounds, and then since then, like, we had a social, and Art was singing with us as well, and filmed us all doing it together. Like, we loved it. It was great. Yeah.
Fantastic, great.
So,
That connection is absolutely fantastic. Yeah, for sure. And then you met George.
My life is pretty much centered around JMC right now.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Get
Brilliant.
really
No. That's, what advice would you give? And let's start with you on this, Rachel. What advice would you give to a music teacher who is teaching either tuition or teaching elsewhere and not really fulfilled? What advice would you give them in order to really drive a passion and to really bring their freedom and self-expression out?
I think you've got to try and remember why you want to do what you're doing. So, and also just trying to make that connection. I think when you make a rapport with the student and you find out, a bit about them and what they want to do and why they want to learn, that creates you know, you kind of have that intention that you want to make them progress, give them something that's gonna, not only they're gonna enjoy, but it's gonna, you know, it's gonna develop them. So everybody's different, you know, especially, and I found this doing private music as well when I was doing one-on-one. I think that's something that's helped me to see the learners as individuals and trying to think, you know, what is it, because music is so broad. So trying to, you know, make that rapport with the student, find out what it is that drives them and what they want to learn, and then just trying to adapt your teaching to that. And that actually gives you a bit more of a sense of fulfillment as well, instead of just making it a generic, you know, trying to think, oh, I'm teaching this whole class. You're trying to think about individual learners. And I think, yeah, that's when you also get more ideas for things that you want to teach, because you think, oh, I know that this student would really enjoy this, or this would really benefit them. And then you start to, so
I always feel like you can never do enough, because you're constantly at the next thing. I could do that, but I don't have any time to do that.
Yeah.
How am I going to do that?
Yeah,
How can
exactly.
I put that in?
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And what about you, Sophia? What advice would you give to a young music teacher or music professional not quite sure on what they want to do and where they want to go?
Put together a plan and a focus of where you want to go with your career and where you want to go with the children that you've currently got, what you want them to be able to do in a year's time. Just always plan ahead, constantly plan
It's
ahead.
almost like going backwards, like if you have that end goal and then you go backwards trying to think about the steps that it takes to get to there, rather than just what am I going to do because for the sake of teaching, trying to think about the end goal and then going backwards how you can get there.
Yeah, that's definitely how we do it.
And final question, we'll start with you on this one, Sophia. What is the impact that you want to create through music?
Like I said, every single child on an instrument, no matter what background, no matter culture, income, anything, everyone deserves to play an instrument. Everyone should have exactly the same experience in music lessons as anybody else in a different school.
And Rachel, what's been your most exciting moment as a music teacher?
I love I know this might be expected, but I love watching them perform. I love doing composing with them. So, you know, especially when there's some students who are quite shy and reserved, because like I was saying, that was kind of me before I actually made that leap to do some performing. I know, but it's changed me. Like you can see how I'm a lot more confident now. So those students who do struggle to, and I ask their classroom teachers as well, they're not, you know, ones to usually participate much or speak up a lot in class. Once they actually, you know, giving them that confidence, keep reassuring them and saying, no, like this time, you know, give it a go. When they eventually do give it a go and they perform, and then that, you know, just sort of like relief, but also like really, you know, you can see the pride as well. They feel really proud of themselves.
Actually, I can.
Yeah, and it gives them such a boost as well. You know, I think that's a really nice moment.
Yeah, for sure. Rachel, Sophia, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for coming on board.
No worries.
At short notice, also, I really, really do appreciate it. So, enjoy the rest of the CPD.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you again soon.
Yeah, you too.